I worked the night shift as a highway maintenance operator on a rural stretch of road known as Mile 27. It was the kind of road nobody drove unless they absolutely had to. 2 lanes, no lights, thick forest on both sides. During the day, it was boring. At night, it felt forgotten. My job was simple. Sit in a small roadside control cabin, monitor traffic cameras, answer the emergency radio, and report accidents or breakdowns. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., I was completely alone. No coworkers, no passing cars most nights, just the hum of old electronics and the wind hitting the trees. At 1:42 a.m., the radio crackled. That alone was unusual. Most calls came through the phone, not the radio. The radio was supposed to be for patrol units, but patrols had been discontinued on that stretch years ago. I leaned forward. Control cabin, Mile 27. Who's transmitting? Static. Then a voice. Low, male, strained. Is anyone there? Yes, I said. This is maintenance control. What's your emergency? The voice hesitated. I think I crashed. I pulled up the traffic cameras. All of them showed empty road. Where are you located? I asked. I don't know, he said. It's dark. I hit something. Are you injured? I don't think so, he replied. But my headlights don't work anymore. That didn't sit right with me. Even if the lights were broken, the emergency camera sensors should have detected a stopped vehicle. Can you see a mile marker? I asked. A pause. It says 27. My skin prickled. That's where I am, I said. I don't see any vehicles on the road. Another pause, longer this time. Then he said quietly, I'm not on the road. Before I could ask what he meant, the radio cut to static. I tried calling back. Nothing. At 2:03 a.m., the phone rang. No caller ID. I answered. Maintenance control? Heavy breathing filled the line. Then the same voice from the radio. I got out of the car. I shouldn't have. Sir, I said, trying to stay calm. Where are you now? I followed the trees, he whispered. There's a building. My heart started racing. There are no buildings near Mile 27. Yes, he said. There is. A small one. With lights on. My stomach dropped, because the only building out here was my cabin. Can you see the door? I asked slowly. Yes, he said. It's locked. I glanced over my shoulder at the metal door behind me. It shouldn't be, I said. He laughed softly. That's what I thought too. The phone line filled with a new sound. Knocking. Not on the phone, on my door. 3 slow knocks. I didn't move. I can see you now, the man said through the phone. I waved. Why didn't you wave back? The pounding turned into pounding. The lights in the cabin flickered. I whispered, Who are you? There was a smile in his voice when he answered. You called me first. The phone went dead. The pounding stopped. Silence. I sat frozen for what felt like hours. Eventually, morning came. When the B-shift arrived, I told them everything. They laughed it off, said I'd fallen asleep, had a stress dream. But when they checked the road, they found a wrecked car deep in the forest, wrapped around a tree. The driver had died on impact. The time of death, 1:41 a.m., 1 minute before the radio call. I quit that day. They shut down Mile 27 6 months later after multiple reports of radio interference. Sometimes, though, when I drive at night and the signal cuts out, I hear the radio crackle.
and a familiar voice asking, "Is anyone there?"
I took the fire lookout job because I needed to disappear for a while. No city, no neighbors, no questions. Just a wooden tower bolted into the side of a mountain, rising above miles of dense forest. My job was simple. Watch for smoke, report fires, stay awake. The tower was 4 stories high, with a single room at the top, windows on all sides. A narrow metal staircase spiraling down to the forest floor. They told me the isolation would get to me. They were right. By the 3rd week, the silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It pressed against my ears. At night, the forest didn't feel empty. It felt like it was holding its breath. There was no cell service, just a radio that connected me to the ranger station 20 miles away. On my 26th night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks on glass. I bolted upright. The door was behind me. The windows surrounded the room. The knocking came again, to my left. Tap, tap, tap. I turned slowly. There was nothing outside the window but black forest and starlight. I told myself it was a branch, wind, an animal, even though the tower stood well above the tree line. Another knock. This time behind me. I spun around. The window behind the desk. Empty. But the sound, it wasn't random. It was moving. Circling the tower. Knocking once at each window. Clockwise. Slowly. I grabbed a flashlight and pressed it against the glass, shining it down the length of the tower. Nothing clung to the walls. Nothing climbed the stairs. But the knocking continued. Now faster. Window to window. Closer together. Like whatever it was, it picked up speed. My radio crackled suddenly. Relief flooded me. "Ranger station?" I said, trying to sound steady. Static. Then a voice. My voice. "Don't look down." I froze. I didn't say that. I whispered. The radio crackled again. Too late. The knocking stopped. Complete silence. My heartbeat was loud enough to fill the room. And then, a single heavy thud from directly beneath the floor. The wooden boards trembled under my boots. Something was on the staircase, climbing, slow. Metal creaked under weight. Step, creak, step, creak. I backed toward the center of the room. The staircase led up through a square opening in the floor, with a hatch I could close if needed. I dropped to my knees and pulled the hatch shut, locked it. The climbing didn't stop. The metal groaned closer, then stopped directly beneath the hatch. Silence. I held my breath. Something scraped across the underside of the wood. Slowly. Deliberately. Like fingers dragging across it. Then... Knock, knock, knock on the hatch. From inches below my face. My entire body shook. "Go away," I muttered. The radio turned on again by itself. "You're in my tower." The voice no longer sounded exactly like mine. It was layered, like multiple versions speaking at once. The hatch handle began to rattle. Once, twice, then violently. The wood splintered. A crack split across it. Through the crack, I saw something moving. Not a face, not hands, just darkness shifting. And then, my alarm went off. 6 a.m. Sunlight poured through the windows. The hatch was intact. No cracks, no damage.
The staircase was empty. I laughed. A weak, shaky laugh. Just a nightmare. Isolation does things to you. That's what they warn you about. I made coffee, stepped outside to breathe the cold morning air. And that's when I saw it, carved into the wooden railings circling the tower platform. Words. Fresh. Deep. Go back to sleep. The letters were cut from the outside, facing inward, as if whoever carved them had been standing on the air. I packed my things immediately, radioed the ranger station, told them I was coming down early. No response. Just static. I descended the staircase slowly, step by step. Halfway down, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were muddy footprints on the steps. Large, bare, leading up, not down. They stopped at the hatch. I didn't finish my shift. I drove straight back to town. Didn't look in the rearview mirror once. That was 6 months ago. Last night, I woke up at 2:17 a.m. 3 knocks on my bedroom window. I live on the 4th floor.
I used to work the overnight shift at a small local radio station. Not a big corporate one. Just a quiet, independent FM station that mostly played old rock and took late-night requests from insomniacs and truck drivers. From midnight to 5 a.m., I was completely alone. The station sat at the edge of town, near a stretch of empty highway and abandoned farmland. At night, it felt cut off from the world. The kind of place where silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. My job was simple. Cue songs, read the occasional weather update, and answer calls. Most nights, nothing happened. Until October 17th. It was 3:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because the digital clock above the soundboard flickered when it changed from 3:12 to 3:13. That's when every sound in the building stopped. The low hum of the equipment, the faint buzz from the fluorescent lights, even the air conditioning. Silence. Not power outage silence. Different. The equipment lights were still on. The broadcast signal monitor showed we were still live. But in my headphones, nothing. No music. No static. Just emptiness. I pulled off the headphones and looked around the studio. Everything looked normal. The red on-air sign was glowing. Then it started. A sound in my headphones. Not music. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Close to the microphone. I froze. The mic in front of me was muted. I checked twice. The breathing continued. Then a voice. My voice. If you can hear this, don't look behind you. My blood ran cold. I hadn't said that. I was alone. I slowly turned in my chair anyway. The studio door behind me was closed. The hallway beyond the small window was dark. Empty. I swallowed and leaned toward the console. This is station 94.7. I said carefully into the mic. If this is some kind of interference, please identify yourself. Static crackled. Then the voice came back. Still mine. You shouldn't have answered the call. I didn't remember answering any call. But as soon as the voice said it, the phone line indicator began flashing. Line 2. Incoming. With shaking fingers, I pressed the button. Hello. Silence. Then very faintly, the sound of music. It took me a second to recognize it. It was the song that had been playing before everything went silent. Except distorted. Like it was playing underwater. Who is this? I asked. The caller finally spoke. It was a whisper. You're not in the studio. My stomach dropped. What? You haven't been for a while. The light went dead. The music in my headphones returned abruptly. Mid-song. Like nothing had happened. The station
station clock now read 3:47 a.m. I stared at it. That was impossible. I checked my phone. 3:47.
I had lost 34 minutes. I didn't remember them. Panic started to creep in. I stood up and walked to the studio door. The hallway lights flickered as I stepped out. The building felt wrong, longer. The hallway seemed stretched, like the walls had subtly shifted outward. Every footstep echoed too loudly. When I reached the restroom mirror at the end of the hall, I stopped. My reflection stared back, pale, sweating. But something was off. My reflection wasn't breathing. My chest rose and fell. The reflections didn't. I stepped closer. It smiled. I wasn't smiling. I stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs. The hallway lights went out. Complete darkness. From somewhere in the building, the speakers turned on, and my voice filled the halls. You're still on air. Emergency lights flickered on in dim red. At the far end of the hallway, the studio door stood open. I was sure I had closed it. Inside, I could see someone sitting in my chair, back turned to me, wearing my jacket, headphones on, talking into the mic. My voice echoed through the building. I can see you. The figure slowly turned its head. Not fully, just enough for me to see its profile. It was me, but wrong. Eyes too dark, smile too wide. The broadcast monitor on the wall lit up with a live feed camera. It showed the studio, the chair, empty. I looked back toward the doorway. The figure was gone. The hallway lights snapped back to normal. The speakers went silent. I stood there shaking for what felt like minutes. Finally, I forced myself back into the studio. Everything looked normal. The playlist was running. The mic was muted. The clock read 4:02 a.m. I sat down carefully. My chair was warm, like someone had just been sitting in it. At 4:59 a.m., the morning host arrived. He found me standing outside in the parking lot. I don't remember going out there. I quit that day, walked away from radio forever. For months, nothing happened. Until last week. I was driving home late from work. Different job, different life. The radio turned on by itself. 94.7 FM. Static at first, then breathing, then my voice. Live.
I took the night shift at a roadside motel because no one else wanted it. 12 rooms, one flickering neon sign, a highway that went quiet after midnight. The owner told me one rule on my first day. Don't assign room 17. He didn't explain why. I didn't ask. From 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I sat behind the front desk with a coffee that tasted like metal, watching dust float through the light. Every sound felt louder at night. The hum of the vending machine, the ticking wall clock, the distant rush of cars. Most nights, nothing happened. Then came the storm. Rain hammered the roof around 2:12 a.m. Thunder shook the windows hard enough to make the key rack rattle. I was halfway through scrolling my phone when headlights swept across the lobby windows. A car pulled in. That was unusual. People didn't stop here in storms. They sped past. A man walked in, tall, soaking wet. His clothes looked old, too old, like something from another decade. He didn't drip water onto the floor. I noticed that immediately. Room, he said. His voice sounded flat, like it didn't echo right. Sure, I replied, standing. ID, please? He stared at me for a moment too long, then smiled. You already have it. I frowned. Sir, I don't. 17, he said softly. My stomach tightened. I can't rent that room, I said. It's out of order. The man tilted his head. His smile didn't fade. It's the only one I've ever stayed in. Lightning flashed outside. For a split second, I swear his reflection didn't appear in the glass door behind him. I swallowed. I can give you room 6 or 9. He leaned closer over the desk. I smelled something cold. Not rot, not mildew, just cold. I won't be staying long, he said.
I never do.
Before I could answer, the lobby lights flickered, just once. When they came back on, the key for room 17 was gone from the rack. The man was holding it. I don't remember handing it to him. He turned and walked toward the parking lot. I should have stopped him. I didn't. At 2:47 a.m., the phone rang. Room calls went through the desk. I answered. Front desk. Static crackled, then breathing, slow, controlled. "Is everything still the same?" the man asked. "Yes," I said, though I didn't know what that meant. "Good," he replied, "because it never ends well when things change." The line went dead. I checked the security monitor. Room 17's camera was blacked out, no signal. All the others were fine. That wasn't possible. The wiring ran in a straight line. If one went out, at least two more should have failed. At 3:09 a.m., the motion sensor alarm chirped. Room 17. I grabbed the flashlight from under the desk and stepped into the rain. The storm had quieted, but the air felt thick, heavy, like the night was holding its breath. Room 17 sat at the far end of the lot. The door was open. "Hello?" I called. No answer. Inside, the room smelled clean, too clean, like it had never been used. No dust, no wrinkles in the bedspread. Then I saw the mirror. Something was written across a finger drawn through steam that shouldn't have been there. "You're early." My reflection looked wrong. A second behind my movements. I stepped back. The bathroom light turned on by itself. I ran. Back in the lobby, I locked the door and watched the monitors. At 3:33 a.m., the camera for room 17 flickered on. The room was empty, except for the bed. Someone was lying under the covers, facing the camera, facing me. It was my face, eyes open, unblinking. The phone rang. I didn't answer. The voicemail light blinked. A new message appeared on the system. Timestamp 2:12 a.m. Before the man had arrived. Against every instinct I had, I played it. My own voice came through the speaker. "Front desk, how can I help you?" Then another voice, mine again, but quieter, whispering. "He's here. Don't give him the key." The recording ended with a sound like a door closing. Behind me. I turned. Room 17's key was back on the rack, still wet. At 5:58 a.m., the sky started to lighten. The storm cleared. Birds began to make noise like nothing had happened. The owner arrived at 6. I quit on the spot. As I was leaving, I asked him one last question. "Who usually stays in room 17? He looked at me carefully. "No one," he said. "Not since the night clerk disappeared." I didn't ask which one. That was months ago. Last night, while driving home on a road I don't remember taking, I saw the neon sign again. Same motel, same storm, same room light on at the end. And when my phone rang, the caller ID said, Room 17.
I worked the night shift at an old railway station for a few months. Officially, it was still listed on maps, but in reality, it was abandoned. No passengers, no tickets, no announcements, just the occasional freight train passing through in the middle of the night. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 5 a.m. All I had to do was sit in a small control room, watch the cameras, and make sure no one entered the restricted areas. The first few nights were quiet. Too quiet. The wind howled through the tunnels, echoing like distant voices. Sometimes the lights flickered, but I told myself it was just old wiring. Things started getting strange during my second week. The first time it happened was at 1:40 a.m. One of the security monitors suddenly turned on by itself. Camera 9, Platform 0. That didn't make sense. There was no Platform 0, at least not officially. The footage was grainy and black and white, a narrow platform, dim yellow lights, thick fog crawling along the ground. A single metal bench sat in the middle. I assumed it was a glitch, maybe an old recording looping by mistake. Then the station loudspeaker trackled to life. "Incoming train to Platform 0, arriving shortly." My stomach dropped. That speaker system hadn't worked for years. I left the control room and stepped into the main hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, buzzing softly. My footsteps echoed louder than they should have. At the end of the hallway, where there was supposed to be a solid concrete wall, I saw something new. A metal staircase. I froze. That staircase had never been there before. I stood there for a full minute, convincing myself I had just never noticed it. Then I went down. The air grew colder with every step. It smelled like rust and damp concrete. When I reached the bottom, I found myself standing on a platform. A rusted sign hung above my head. Platform 0. The fog was thick, the lights barely worked, and someone was sitting on the bench. A man in an old-fashioned coat, his head lowered, completely still. "Sir," I said, "this area is closed." No response. I took a few steps closer. That's when I heard it. A train. Not loud like modern trains. This one sounded heavy, slow, and wrong, like metal dragging through darkness. A single headlight appeared at the end of the tunnel. An old train rolled into the station. No number, no logo, no destination sign. The doors opened. No one got off. The man on the bench stood up slowly and walked toward the train without ever looking at me. He stepped inside. The doors closed. The train disappeared into the tunnel, swallowed by fog. When I ran back upstairs, the staircase was gone. Just a concrete wall. I told myself I imagined everything. The next night was normal, until 2:03 a.m. The loudspeaker turned on again. "Final train to Platform 0, now boarding." I checked the cameras. This time, the platform was crowded. Men, women, different ages, all standing silently, none of them moving. I felt something pulling me, like I was supposed to go down there. The staircase was back. When I reached Platform 0 again, one of the people turned and looked straight at me. It was my face. Same eyes, same scar above the eyebrow. He smiled. That's when I noticed something horrifying. None of the people on the platform were breathing. The train arrived. The doors opened. They all stepped inside, one by one, without a sound. My double paused in front of me. "You missed your stop last time," he said calmly. I ran. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I don't remember reaching the control room. I only remember the monitor. Camera 9. It showed Platform 0, and someone new sitting alone on the bench. Me. I quit the next morning. A week later, I checked the station's old records. There was a Platform 0 once. It was sealed after an accident. A night train vanished with everyone on board. No bodies were ever found. They say the train still arrives, but only for those who are already halfway gone. I worked the night shift at a small traffic control center. Not police, not emergency services. Just a room full of monitors showing live feeds from street cameras, intersections, tunnels, and empty roads. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., it was usually just me. Most cameras showed nothing. Empty sidewalks, blinking traffic lights, the occasional late-night car passing through. The job was simple. Watch for accidents, report anything unusual. At least, that's what I thought. At 1:58 a.m., one of the monitors flickered. Camera C47. That camera wasn't on my list. I checked the system map. Cameras went from C01 to C42. There was no C47. The feed showed a narrow street. Old buildings, no streetlights. The image quality was worse than the others, like it was being streamed from very far away.
I assumed it was a glitch. Then the camera moved. Not panned, not zoomed. It turned, slowly, like someone was holding it. My chair creaked as I leaned closer to the screen. The view stopped in front of a building entrance. The door was familiar. Too familiar. It was my apartment building. My stomach tightened. I pulled up the timestamp. Live. 01:58:22. I was sitting at work, so who was standing outside my building? The camera angle lowered slightly, as if the person holding it was looking down at the doormat. It said, "Welcome home." I live alone. I don't have a camera outside my door. The feed cut to black. I exhaled, laughing nervously. Okay, that's not funny. At 2:06 a.m., the same camera came back. Now it was inside a hallway, my hallway. Same cracked paint, same flickering ceiling light, same fire extinguisher missing its pin. The camera moved forward. Each step was slow, careful. I checked the system logs. Operator, you. I hadn't touched the controls. My hands were shaking now. At the end of the hallway, the camera stopped. In front of my door. I stood up so fast my chair almost fell over. "No," I whispered. The camera tilted up. My door number. Then a knock. Not on the screen. Behind me. In the control room. 3 slow knocks. I froze. There was no one else scheduled. The building was locked at night. The monitor changed again. The camera now showed a small room. A control room. My control room. I could see the back of my chair. I could see myself standing, watching the screens. The timestamp still said live. A message appeared at the bottom of the feed. You left the camera on. The lights in the room flickered. I turned around. No one there. When I faced the monitors again, camera C47 was gone. Deleted. Every record erased. At 6 a.m., my shift ended. I didn't tell anyone. I just went home. When I reached my apartment, everything looked normal. Door locked, no signs of forced entry. Inside, I tried to convince myself it was stress, hallucination, fatigue. Then I noticed something on my desk. A small black device. A camera, pointed at my bed. The red light was on, blinking, and on my phone, a notification appeared. C47, live. I took the job because it paid cash and no one asked questions. Night shift at a gas station in the middle of the desert. One pump still working, a small shop with flickering fluorescent lights, miles of nothing in every direction. The owner warned me before he left. If anyone asks for directions, he said, don't give them any. I laughed. In the middle of nowhere? He didn't smile. Especially here. From midnight to dawn, the desert felt unreal. Too quiet. No wind, no insects, just the hum of the fridge and the buzz of the lights above my head. At 1:17 a.m., a car pulled in. Old, beige, covered in dust like it had been driving for days. The engine didn't make a sound. A woman stepped out, thin, pale. Her clothes looked wrong, too clean for the desert, like she hadn't touched the outside world. She walked in and stood in front of the counter. "Is this the last stop?" she asked. Her voice echoed slightly, even though the room was small. "The last stop for what?" I said. She blinked, slowly. "Before the road ends." I felt a chill. "Roads don't end," I said. "They just keep going." She smiled faintly. "That's what they all say." She looked around the shop, then back at me. "Which lead to the city?" The owner's warning echoed in my head. "I can't give directions," I said. "Sorry." Her smile disappeared. "Oh," she said softly. "Then I'm late." Before I could ask what she meant, she turned and walked out. I watched through the window. She didn't get into the car. She stood beside it, waiting. At 1:29 a.m., the radio crackled. I hadn't turned it on. Static filled the room, then a voice, low, distorted. "Last call." I unplugged the radio. The voice kept going. "Last call for those who missed their turn." The lights dimmed. Outside, the woman was gone. So was the car. At 2:03 a.m., another vehicle arrived. A pickup truck this time, rusted, headlights off. A man got out. His movements were stiff, like he wasn't used to his body. He walked in, sniffed the air. "Smells like fuel," he said. "That's good." I didn't respond. He leaned on the counter. "You seen a woman, light dress, looks lost." "No," I said. He nodded as if he expected that. "Figures," he muttered. Then he looked straight at me. "You working alone?" "Yes." His smile was too wide. "Then you should hurry." "Hurry with what?" He tapped the counter twice, choosing. Before I could ask, he left. The desert outside had changed. The horizon looked closer, like the world had shrunk. At 2:22 a.m., the bathroom door creaked open by itself. I hadn't heard anyone go in. From inside, I heard whispering, multiple voices, all saying the same thing. "We missed the exit." I backed away, heart pounding. The shop door slammed shut. The pumps outside turned on by themselves. Numbers started rolling fast. No hoses connected. At 2:34 a.m., the window fogged up. Words appeared, traced from the outside. "You work here, now." I grabbed my keys and ran for the door. It wouldn't open. The radio crackled again. "Last stop closing." The lights went out. In the darkness, I heard footsteps surrounding me, too many. A hand touched my shoulder, cold, dry. A voice whispered in my ear, my own voice. "You didn't give directions." The light snapped back on. I was alone. The shop was normal. Morning light crept over the desert. At 6 a.m., a car pulled in. A young guy stepped out, phone in hand. "Hey, is this the last gas station before the city?" I opened my mouth, paused, then smiled. "Yes," I said, "it is." He thanked me and walked back to his car. I watched him drive off, in the wrong direction. When I looked down at the counter, there was something I hadn't noticed before. A name tag. Old, cracked plastic. It read, "Attendant, Night Shift," with my name on it. Behind the counter, the radio whispered softly, "Another one stayed."